Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my 2019 edition of the Mission Impossible film ranking, where I'll be re-ranking all 6 Mission Impossible films. I did a ranking in August, very late July, early August 2018. I think it was early August, where I ranked 5 of the 6 Mission Impossible films from least favourite to favourite, with a redux after watching the one I hadn't seen at the end of the month, and that was the 3rd film. I managed to see 1, 2, 4 and 5 just before seeing the 6th film, and then did the ranking after doing that film's review. And so after seeing the 3rd film, I redid the ranking, and the original ranking was Rogue Nation last, then the 1st film, the 2nd film, then when I saw the 3rd film, that came next, then the 4th film, then which was Ghost Protocol, and then Fallout was the best. So basically, each film was topping the previous film, with the exception of Rogue Nation, which was always at the bottom since I first saw it. It's a bit like how with Harry Thomas, his Wizarding World ranking was each of the Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts films topped the previous film, with the exception of Half-Blood Prince, where he put that at the bottom of his ranking, and then every other film was better than the previous film, apart from that one. So it would be, that was Half-Blood Prince, Philosopher's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, Goblet of Fire, Order of the Phoenix, Deathly Hallows Part 1, Deathly Hallows Part 2, Fantastic Beasts, and Where to Find Them, and Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. So it was like that. So his ranking of the Wizarding World was basically similar to my ranking of the Mission Impossible films. Or I should say it's the other way around, really, as I'm comparing it to him. My Mission Impossible ranking of 2018, both versions, was like Harry Thomas's Wizarding World ranking as of 2018-19, where each, apart from one case where it's at the bottom, each film is better than the previous one. So that was the case. However, this new ranking takes a bit of a twist, as I don't think each one is quite. There's one film that's there's some films that are weaker than one film that's been moved from a lower position to a bit more of a higher spot. So without further, as well as my opinions on some of them being a bit different, and you can check out my reviews of the 5 films on this channel, and the 6th film, and the original ranking, or reduced ranking I should say, on the main channel. So without further ado, here is my new Mission Impossible film ranking. But before we start, here are the films. Mission Impossible, Mission Impossible 2, Mission Impossible 3, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, and Mission Impossible Fallout. So starting off with number 6, it's still at the bottom of the list. It's Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, aka MI5. Now, I do like this film a bit more after watching it for a second time than I did the first time, but it's that fucking CIA subplot. I just can't get over that subplot. If it wasn't for that, then this film would be second best, easily. This would be the second best one, and I would have given it a 9 or maybe even a 10 out of 10, easily. And it's the same with the Doctor Who story, The Claws of Axos, which I recently reviewed. That one had a pretty good story, that was pretty good, and I would have given it an 8 or a 9 out of 10. But there was this one subplot that went on for quite a bit of a time that just gritted my teeth no end, and I compared it to the Rogue Nation subplot. And this was the subplot about Chin, and him trying to take over, so to speak, in that Doctor Who story. That just basically pissed me off to no end. With that story, I ended up giving that 7 out of 10. This one, it's the same. You've got this pretty otherwise great story, but it's ruined by one shit element. And ultimately, I had to give Rogue Nation a lower score than it deserved. No, a lower score than I wanted, because it deserved the lower score because of that subplot. But if it hadn't had that subplot, it would have been higher, and I would have been all the glad for giving it a higher score, and it would be higher on this list. But because of that shit subplot, it's here. So, sod it. Number 5. Number 5 is my guilty pleasure of the series, because it's the one I enjoy. It's the one I find the most entertaining out of them, besides my number 1 choice. And it's the one that is just a lot of fun, even though it's very different to the other films, especially its predecessor. But it's also pretty enjoyable and a bit silly as well. Number 5 is Mission Impossible 2, aka MI2. Yeah, this film is over the top in its silliness, and it's pretty hilarious and it's a bit strange. It's the least Mission Impossible of the films, at least. If you compare it to the show, it's the least Mission Impossible, which is strange because the previous film was Mission Impossible 1, which was the most Mission Impossible of the films, and I think the later films, 4, 5 and 6, have gotten back to that feel, especially film 6. And maybe a bit of 4, 5, not so much. That's another thing. 5 did feel a bit more of just like an action spy thriller, but not around the same length of how basically 3 and 4 merged together. But still. But Mission Impossible 2, I just find it just a lot of fun and entertaining. Yes, it is silly and over the top. Okay, moving on to number 4. Number 4 is a good one. This is a good story, good action, good acting, just all around good. But again, my opinion on this one lowered. The same with I would say MI2. It's lowered a little bit since the last viewing, and I thought it's good. It's very good, but it's not quite there. And there's a small subplot that I don't like. This is Mission Impossible 3, aka MI3. Yeah, the small subplot I don't like is Lawrence Fishburne's character trying to arrest Hunt and his team just for no reason. I don't know. I'm sure Musgrave could have told Ethan that his wife was in Shanghai another way, and something that would have been less aggravating. But it's not as aggravating as Rogue Nation, so I can ignore that. And just, it's again, same with MI6, with Fallout, when the CIA tried to bring them all in, but then they seem to be and the mistrust as well. But I can look past that, and in that kind of case, part of the plot for the latter point, and they kind of resolute at the end, which is fine. They do here as well, but reconcile in, but it doesn't quite feel as natural. This is a good film, but I don't know, it's just not an amazing film. I think they could have done a little bit better, but it's still pretty good. And it's nice to bring Mission Impossible back for the 21st century. I mean, the second film was in 2000, but it felt very different to what came before. So Mission Impossible 3 was basically kick-starting a new era that would follow within the next three films. Speaking of the first film, because we'll be coming back to the later films in a bit, but first of all, number 3, Mission Impossible, aka MI1. Now, this is the one that's changed the most in the ranking. My opinions have changed the most because I enjoyed it a lot more, understood it a bit more, and I appreciated the slower, more spy thriller aspects more on a second viewing, and therefore the film shot up from previously 5th place to 3rd. And it's also, I think, with my knowledge of the TV show, it's probably the most similar to the TV show. It's the most faithful to that, despite some changes that they made, such as turning Jim Phelps, the main character of the original show from season 2 onwards, and of the revival era of the show. They turned him into a villain for the film. Whoops, that would have annoyed people off. And I would be if a major character that was supposed to be a goodie, especially the main character, turned bad. It's like if Ethan Hunt went bad in film 7 or film 8, for example. I think a lot of people would be a bit pissed off by that. But despite that, this is still a really good film and very enjoyable. Some really good moments, and has a lot of great stuff. So that's that one. Number 2 feels the most Mission Impossible out of the following films since MI1, and it's got some great cast. It centres on the small team. It's got some great locations, some great stunts, and great visual effects, and it just all around looks great. So, my number 2 score continues to be Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, aka MI4. Yeah, this one just works on so many levels. It just works. I think the only downside is that the villain is my least favourite of the franchise. The other villains were actually pretty great, despite what they did with Phelps. He was a pretty good villain for that one film. Douglas Scott's villain was Ambrose was a good villain in his film. Philip Seymour Hoffman's character Owen something was good for his film. Solomon Lane's a pretty great villain. He's pretty intimidating, especially in Fallout. And Henry Cavill is his August Walker character is probably my favourite, just with the performance alone. But I can't actually remember this guy's name. Shows how little I cared about this fucker. I don't know. I don't care for his character. I don't really care. The only thing I care about is the fact it's because the team are trying to stop him. They've been framed by him to be hunted down by the Russians as criminals who attacked the Kremlin, or trying to start into a war, which is what this guy seems to want to do. He wants to start a war between the United States and Russia for some reason. 2011, so it's you're about 20 years too late for the Cold War, mate. But nevertheless, this is still a really entertaining and really enjoyable film, and has a bit more of a spy thriller edge to it that was missing certainly from the second film, not so much from the third, but it was missing a little bit, and would be reincorporated back into the series in the sixth film, a bit in the fifth as well. So speaking of the sixth film, my number one continues to be Mission Impossible Fallout, aka MI6. It's got the best action, the best stunts, the best acting, best characters, both main and supporting, and best locations, especially a more use of London, even though the first film had my beloved Liverpool Street Station in it. But this time round, Fallout had more extensive London shooting, although there was quite a bit in the first and fifth films. The fifth film also had King's Cross Station, so it's nice that they go to a train station in every time they go to London. In this one's case, it's Blackfriars, and it just looks really great. And there's also great uses of the locations in Paris, and Paris is used really well. I'm glad. I hope they're happy. And Dublin, not Dublin, it's Belfast, more UK. And Germany gets quite a bit. So it's all done really well, and really well handled. What does the final confrontation take? Oh, India. That's got some really good moments, and actually in the cinema it was actually quite tense where they're going to do it. And yeah, this was actually I watched this one in the cinema, and it was so good. This was such a great film. I loved every minute. The only thing I wasn't so keen on is the CIA trying to bring them in, but I can understand that one. I can give it a bit. I can put it to the side, and I can understand why they have the distrust bit, especially with Walker supposedly trying to frame Ethan Hunt, and that was part of Solomon Lane's plane, which I discovered on the rewatch. So that actually made a lot of sense and actually works as part of the story plot. So not only is it forgiven, but it's also really effectively done. And the other thing was that Brand, Jeremy Renner's character, wasn't in the film, not even as a cameo like Vig Rhames' Luther at the very end of Ghost Protocol. Yeah, he was. Again, that's one thing I have against. Another thing I have against Ghost Protocol. Luther wasn't in it apart from an uncredited cameo. He and Julia should have had credited cameos. But in this film, Brand, played by Jeremy Renner, is not here for some reason. I think it's because of his commitments to Marvel and to his role in Endgame, not Infinity War like we thought he would be in, but I think it's to his Endgame role. But considering how many roles he was in 2011, 2012, I'm sure he would have been okay. That being said, they were thinking of having him killed off in this film, probably at the start, if he was to come back. So maybe it was just as well that he wasn't in this film, so that we can see him again in film 7 and or film 8. So I suppose it's just as well that he doesn't appear so that he can survive another film. So yeah, but other than that, this is a pretty brilliant film, and in my 2018 film ranking of the year, I put it 4th, and I think I would stand by that positioning. Even though I think some of the ones near the bottom are going to change. I expect my score of The Predator will change when I rewatch that. It might possibly go to the bottom, or just above Early Man. Well, Darkest Hour, I recently rewatched that, and I might need to go up a few places. My 2018 ranking might need a re-ranking, at least the first 6 films anyway. But as for this ranking, this is the new ranking of the Mission Impossible films, and I think that's how it's going to stay for the next couple of years, at least until we get to film 7, and we'll do a 2021 re-ranking of the film series with a 2022 re-ranking after film 8. But until then, we've got these 6 great films to watch. And yeah, they're not for everybody, but they're still really good and really entertaining. It's got some great moments. So I'll recap my list quickly. Number 6, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, aka MI5. Number 5 is Mission Impossible 2, aka MI2. Number 3 is Mission Impossible 3, aka MI3. Number 3 is Mission Impossible, aka MI1. Number 2 is Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, aka MI4, and number 1 is Mission Impossible Fallout, aka MI6. So thank you for watching my re-ranking of the Mission Impossible films. What do you think of them? Please comment below, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. It's Mission Impossible. Fuck. So, that just fucked me up, basically. I said no. AKA Mission Impossible. You mean? So, yeah, but this number 6 is Rogue Nation, aka MI5. Just gotta put these things back in here. This one just before you throw these little bits back in. Just after you say number 1, Mission Impossible Fallout, and this one just at the start of the listing. Okay, that's it. So thank you for